Hello, lovely people. Okay, so today we're going to build on some of the work that we were doing in your first class and have a little look at some standing postures, some ways of releasing your spine, and really try to get a little bit of strength and balance into the limbs. So I want you to start just standing in a really nice, comfortable spot and take a little moment to close down your eyes, to allow the arms to just dangle by the sides, and to start to tune into what it feels like to stand here over your feet. So all of us are going to have some asymmetries happening within our bodies. We're going to maybe notice that the weight is more over the balls of the feet than over the heels. We're going to maybe get a sense that one hip is higher, one shoulder is lower. I'd like you to take a little moment to really feel into all of the information that you can gather about your delicious body and where it's starting from. And then start to take a little gentle rock forwards over the balls of your feet and backwards over your heels, very small and subtle, just to begin to really find the center of your foot and the center of your balance. And as you're doing this, if you notice that your knees are significantly locking out, or that there's any kind of undue tension coming into the pelvis, just try to stay soft. A little micro bend in the knees, a little loosening of the tailbone. All those things are going to really help to bring your system into a greater sense of that kind of long plumb line from the head all the way down to the feet. Come back into the middle of the soles of your feet, wherever you found them, and slowly open up your eyes. And just start by taking a little loving care and attention of your shoulders. So what we're going to do is we're going to just take one hand and run it to the top of the shoulder on the other side. And I want you to take your fingers and really wrap them around this muscle here. This is your sort of trapezius muscle. Feel free to re-robe yourself once you've done it. And I want you to give it a good squeeze with the fingers. So the fingers are squeezing in, the heel of your hand is pushing into the space just above your collarbone. And you're going to just take the top of your arm bone upwards towards your ears. Give that muscle of your shoulder a little bit of a wringing out as though you were squeezing a wet sponge. And then let that arm bone come back down to by your side. I'm going to take that again. So we're going to allow the arm bone head to float upwards. As it does, we're going to really give the tissues there a good kneading with the fingers. And then we're going to let that come all the way down. And it's kind of a reluctant release of the muscle of your upper shoulder from your hands. So you're trying to really kind of squeeze out all of the last little bits of juice that you can. You might notice as you do this that the area is really quite tight. It's really common, especially for those of us that do a lot of work like gardening or anything really, even cooking, where you're tending to lean over things. So I want us to spend just a little bit of time seeing if we can work into this space. And as you continue to move, you may find that you're able to take hold of slightly different bits of that long expanse of fabric at the top of your shoulder. So just give yourself a little bit of time. As that arm comes up, it may be that you've found a pocket of your shoulder that kind of runs into the neck. And if you're there, just go really gently, breathing easily. Taking one more and then letting that arm come slowly down by the side. And then from there, bring your hands slightly lower and there should be a little pocket between the collarbones and the beginning of your arm bone, this kind of indent here around the clavicle. I want you to bring your fingers into it and you're just going to start to gently press down with the pads of the fingers. I'll come closer so that you can see. Sort of down with the pads of the fingers and you're pulling down. But as you do, you're trying to keep this arm bone, relatively speaking, opening up and away from you. So you're getting a nice sense of stretch there. And then gently turn your head to the opposite side and consider just lowering your chin slightly towards your shoulder so that as you start to stretch into the front of your chest, you're also getting a little bit of length through the side of the neck. And if you find a really good sweet spot with your fingers, stay there and start to rotate your back hand slightly backwards and stretch it slightly away from your body, and you may find that that gives you even more of a sense of release across the front of your chest. We're going to hold for 1 or 2 breaths in whatever point you found. And then we're going to release that down. Give that shoulder a little bit of a roll. And just standing here, notice how the two sides of your body feel. So for me, I can sort of feel, and I might even be able to see in the mirror, that there's a little difference in the way that this arm bone is hanging down at the side of my body. And if I were to take a movement with my arm upwards and down, and a movement with this arm upwards and down, oh, I can really feel the difference between the two sides. So we're going to come over to the side. So take your fingertips, wrap them around the top of your shoulder muscle. Take a good, generous squeeze. And as you squeeze, that arm bone head is lifting up. We're exposing all of those good, juicy bits that we're trying to end the tension in. And then we're going to let that arm bone come back down again. And just hit that a couple of times. In terms of your standing stance, your knees are still bent, your feet are still planted on the floor. Everything is feeling really gorgeously comfortable. And if at any point it isn't, this is also one of those exercises that you can do sitting on a chair. It's very adaptable. I do it after I've been for a long car drive. It's amazing how little time we spend actually giving ourselves the kind of massage feedback that we go to other people to try to pay for. So I want you to take another 3 or 4 of these, just working slowly and gently, seeing how this side is by comparison with the other. And just kind of seeing how much you can soften. Just take one more, make it your best one yet, and then slowly let that arm gradually drag down. Bring your fingers slightly closer to the collarbones, this sort of major, pec minor spot. And again, just use the 3 middle fingers to begin to stretch those areas of you down and away from that arm bone head. And then if it feels appropriate, just let your head slightly tip to the side. The chin is going to revolve towards that opposite shoulder. We're maybe going to explore taking the outside arm to the side, finding a sweet spot where you can really pause and breathe. And invite the front of your chest to just release. And just stay for one more breath. And then let that arm come back down by the side. Give those shoulders a little bit of a shimmy up and down. Bring the fingertips to the tops of the arm bones now, elbows down initially. And we're going to go on some circles up with the elbows, round and down the sides. Now, as you do this, what's really tempting is to allow these ribs to move significantly forwards and backwards. So as you circle, try to just be aware of that. It's not about forcing your body into any one particular pose, but it's just an awareness that the ribs and the pelvis want to stay a little aligned, yeah? And we're trying to keep a bit of space in the collarbones. So I even use the pads of my fingers to sort of slightly stretch the collarbone space out to the side as I move. This is more your backstroke posture. So if you've instinctively noticed that you've started forwards, that's quite an interesting sign that maybe your body is generally deviating towards being forward folding. And instead, we really want to use this as an opportunity to open up. Take another 2 and 1, and then we're going to go one side and then the other. And as I move, I'm letting my spine just begin to spiral. Hips are going to stay facing you guys. But I'm trying to just see if I can find a little bit of a flow. Breathing into it, opening up the side of the waist. And it might be that we're just kind of working here. And if we're working here, then that's also a brilliant place to be. So don't be afraid of recognizing where your edge is today and really just leaning into that. Not feeling like you have to perform, not feeling like you have to exactly mimic what I'm doing. The aim of all of these classes is for you to feel empowered within your body and really comfortable, a little bit delicious. So you want to make this movement exactly what it needs to be for your system to find that. Bring those arms back down by your sides. So walk your feet a little bit wider and bring a soft bend into the knees. And with the hands on the hips, we're going to take a little bit of a pelvic clock like we did lying on the floor last time. So you're going to curl your pubic bone in towards you, as though your tailbone is coming underneath you, and then you're going to send it back behind you. So if I do that to the side, we're coming forwards, we're going backwards. The bend in the knees is really useful because it allows some space for the legs and the hips to relate to each other slightly more efficiently. And again, just notice that your ribs ideally are going to stay relatively still while the hips find this movement. It's a really, really nice thing to do if you've been sitting down for too long. You can also do it seated on a chair, which is a nice cheeky trick to find a little bit more space. And this is an area that gets a huge amount of stagnancy day to day. Because we load a lot of weight down into it, it doesn't often have that much freedom of movement. So as you continue to move forwards and backwards, see how much gentle loosening you can create. We're going to come forwards, and this time we're just going to let the upper body round a little bit down towards the kneecaps. Once the hands are there on the thighs, I want you to push the hands into the legs and start to send your tailbone backwards. We're going to do that again. So we're going to round into the belly, drawing the pubic bone towards the nose, feeling the upper body just softly curving down towards your legs. And then we're going to press the hands and the thighs towards each other and send the tailbone back out behind you. We come in, it's like a kneeling cat-cow, and we go out. I'd suggest an exhale as you come into your rounding and an inhale as you extend the tailbone. Just building on what we've already done. And just take a couple more. In and out. And then we're going to take some sideways movements. So still that soft bend in the knee. You're going to let one hip tip down, more of a bend in that knee. And you're going to go to the other side. It's like a little shift of the hips from side to side. And as you go, what you might find is that your hips are moving out, but they're also maybe moving backwards a little bit. And that's fine. Yeah, so if you're anything like me, you'll be getting this kind of backward orientation of the bottom. Don't worry about that at all. Try to keep your spine somewhere in the center of your legs as you move. Allowing one leg to move forwards and the other to almost draw in and up to the body. This is the equivalent of your 3 o'clock and your 9 o'clock that we were doing in class 1 on the floor. And then we're going to come into the full circle. So we're going to come round, down to the pubic bone, up and around into the belly. And it feels really weird to do it in standing. So as you move, if you feel like, God, I really just don't know what Anthea is talking about here, then imagine that clock face in your belly again. Tip your marble down towards your pubic bone and then round. And then tip it in towards the belly button again. And even I'm having to look down at my pelvis a little bit to kind of figure out what I'm doing. Like a belly dancer movement. And as you move in your belly dancer circles, you're maybe going to notice that there are bits, again, just like when we were in our lying down position, that feel easy. And there are bits that really don't. And often, as we now come counterclockwise, which I'm going to get you guys to do now, there are going to be easier ranges. So counterclockwise, actually for some people, is much easier. So have a little play. See how it feels. This whole time we're getting a little bit of strength into the legs by being in standing with that bend in the knees. We're going to go for one more. And then we're going to come up to standing. Hopefully those hips are feeling really nice and open. So we're going to take your left arm and reach it up towards the ceiling. This right arm is going to slide down the side of your right thigh. It's acting like a contact point for you to stretch up and away from. So reach the little finger of your arm over to the side. Breathe in. Feel that side of your body really stretching up towards the ceiling. As you exhale, draw the belly and the pelvic floor up and in and bring yourself back into standing. Take that on the other side. We slide that left hand down the left thigh. We feel the little finger spiraling down to pick up the fabric of the side of your hip. Breathing in. Exhale, draw in and up with the belly to bring yourself back into the center. Moving smoothly over to the other side. Take another 2 on each side, lovely people. One way and then the other. And then come to bring your hands across the front of your chest, still soft in your knees. Keep your hips facing me. So imagine you had eyeballs here. You're not wanting to move them at all. And all we're going to do is allow the ribs to start to revolve around the spine. So we are taking an inhale. And as we do, we're beginning to turn this crosshatch of your arms and your chest to one side. So as I turn towards the right, my left hip is still peeling back behind me. I'm going to take an inhale there and feel the back of my rib wall pushing out behind me. And as I come back to center, I'm going to get a little bit taller. Inhale over to the side. Exhale, see if you can find a tiny bit more rotation in that exhale. Inhale again. And exhale, return. Inhale over to the left. Exhaling to find a small amount more rotation of that right rib over to the right. Coming slowly back through center. Inhale to turn. Exhaling here. Inhale one more time to fill up the ribs at the back. Exhale, coming back into center. Arms come back down by the side. So we're going to come up against a wall, right? So I found this lovely glass wall here in the studio. Find any flat surface that you have at home. It could be a door, it could be a full wall. You might just be working with something really narrow. It's not too much of an issue. Just find somewhere that you can comfortably lean. Your feet are going to be about 1.5 feet away from the wall so that you feel as though you can allow the whole weight of your body to drop backwards into it. Okay. So what you're going to immediately get a sense of is whether your spine can drop back. So if you find that even here, there's a significant proportion of your body that's not in contact with the wall, bring your feet a little further forwards at about hip distance. Maybe softly bend your knees and see if you can just gently encourage your pelvis, the lumbar spine and the ribs, shoulders, back of head, as close to the wall as you can. Don't worry if you can't get there entirely, but have it as an intention that you want to see if you can soften backwards. So we are going to take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, see if you can draw the belly back into the wall. And again, inhale. Ribs expanding. Exhale. Belly draws back. Now I'm deliberately blowing out through the mouth as though I'm blowing through a straw because that's going to help the belly button to scoop back, to feel that activation in your deep tummy muscles. So we're going to try that a couple more times. Inhaling, feeling the chest expanding outwards to the side, and exhaling, coming back in. Twice more. Good, now this time, now that you've found this connection of the back of your ribs to the wall, we're going to go for a little roll down. I'd like you to imagine peeling your head, neck and chest, segment by segment, away from the wall behind you. So you're going to let the chin, first of all, roll in towards the throat. Then the back of the neck lengthens. And then the upper shoulders, maybe, peel away from the wall. And as this happens, those bottom ribs want to be pushing backward into it. So if you feel like as you come forwards, the bottom is moving up the wall or the lower spine is lifting away from it, you just know that you've not quite found that folding up and over the rib wall. You're going to come to a point that feels comfortable within your body, and that is a very personal thing. The hips aren't going to move, so that's definitely your end point. If you feel the bottom sliding up, you've gone a little bit too far. When you come to your end range, just take a breath in and breathe into the back of your lungs, feeling them spread the shoulder blades apart, feeling them lengthen the spine from the curved tailbone through to the back of your head. As you exhale, just drop a little heavier. The weight supported by the feet and by the wall behind your pelvis. As you exhale, slowly draw your low back into the wall again. And segment by segment, make your way all the way back up. When you get there, breathe in. And as you exhale, roll through the head again. Take yourself down. So we're coming into this same little roll down. Taking a breath wide into the back of the lungs. And as you exhale, you're pushing the floor away. You're slowly connecting your low back to the wall. And you're bringing yourself back up from the bottom all the way to the top. Let's go again, inhaling. Exhale to roll. Slowly making your way forwards.
Every time, perhaps getting an inch closer towards the feet. Taking the time to pause when you get down to the bottom of your movement, breathing into the back of your body, exhaling slowly, coming up.
And this time, stay. Okay, I'm going to get you guys to connect the backs of your arms to the wall. The feet are going to stay about the distance that they were. And what you want to feel here is that the whole of your forearm and the splayed palm up to the tops of your shoulders are very connected in this low V. I'm going to show you and talk you through it at the same time. So we're going to press the arms, particularly hands and forearms, into the wall. And as that happens, my pelvis is going to float forward. So it's as though I'm doing a little bit of a bridge. If I move my arms back, you guys can see I've created about that much distance between my bottom and the wall. And at the same time, the ribs have lifted. And so that all that's connected now to the wall is my head, my neck, my shoulders. And then I'm going to bring myself back. Now, this is very easy if you use the bottom and if you use your shoulders. So those two things are going to make this seem like not very much at all. Instead of that, what I'd like you to do is just use the palm and your lower arm to bring yourself forwards and backwards. And as you do that, you may, like me, start to vary what position your hands are in terms of the distance from your hips to make it a little harder or a little easier. But as you practice taking the spine forwards in this straight line and backwards, just using the lower portion of your arm, you'll definitely be beginning to feel some work there. We're going to go for another 3. Slow descent. And 2. And last one. This time as you come down, make it very slow. We're going to go for a count of 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Give those arms a little cheeky shake out. And the next one is still going to be using the wall. It's going to mean that rudely I have to turn my back to you, but I'll come and show you at a side position as well. So what it's going to look like is hands pressing against the wall or the door in front of you at about the height of your shoulders. And your body's going to be in a little bit of a lean. So you want to be standing about 3 feet away from the skirting board underneath you. And what we're going to do is just very slowly, we're going to turn those elbow creases up to the ceiling. And we're going to bend the elbows and the whole body, not just the pelvis, but the whole body is going to move towards the wall. And then you're going to press it away with your arms. So if I turn with my back to you and I'll show you, feet are a couple of feet away. Hands are connecting to the surface of the wall or the door in front of you. Elbows are bending. And as the elbows bend, my straight spine is leaning towards the surface in front. And then I'm pushing the palms into that surface and I'm straightening the arms and I'm coming back to my diagonal lean. The narrower your elbows are, the narrower the hands are, the more challenging it's going to be. And the more that you have this internal spin, so that the elbow crease kind of faces forwards and up, the more challenging also. So as you continue this movement, just notice how low can I get my elbows towards the door or the wall without losing the sense that my ribs are staying on top of my pelvis. We go forwards, we come backwards. And we're doing this again from the muscles of your shoulders, as opposed to it coming from anywhere else in the body. So as we move, this is the equivalent of what you guys are doing back home, keep going. It's these muscles that are squeezing in to keep you really connected. It's not happening in the upper arm bone. There's a sense of length and space across the front of your chest as you move. You guys should take another 3. I'm going to do them with you. Leaning in, going a little slower now to start to challenge the muscles a touch. Belly still nicely lifted into the spine. Head and neck staying on top of the spine rather than caving forwards. We're going to do just one more. And then we're going to come away, give those arms a nice little shake, and congratulate ourselves for having built so much strength into them. I'm going to stay on the floor rather than on my mat because I'm going to want to have a nicely firm surface underneath the soles of my feet. So what you're wanting to do here is, again, just feel into the width and the length of your feet. Really get a sense that they're nicely connected to the surface of your mat or the floor. And start to take a little side to side movement on the tops of your feet. So we're just preparing for some single-sided stability. And you're trying to get a sense that it would be achievable to begin to bring the sole of one foot off the floor. So I'm going to start to play with that now. So I'm standing down into the floor. I'm allowing the heel of the opposite foot to begin to lift backwards, just to a place that's comfortable. The spine is staying lovely and tall. And in the leg that's standing down into the floor, there's a little bend in the knee. So we're not forcing any of these joints into an uncomfortable place. We're keeping them nice and active. Come over to one side and now stay. And with the foot that you're rooting down into, imagine pressing the floor away. And as that happens, feeling that the spine is growing even taller. We're going to let this opposite foot float off the floor. We're going to see if we can stay here in a tiny little bit of a balance. If it's comfortable to be here with balance, then we could see if we could extend that leg out to the side. If it's comfortable to be there, without losing your equilibrium, we could take that leg up and we could tap the toe down and up and down. The kneecap is still facing forwards. The body is staying relatively comfortable. We've still got a feeling that the spine is growing ever taller up to the ceiling. And we're just seeing how this is. Can we take another 3 and 2 and 1 and lower? If you need a wall beside you to do this, then absolutely take it. That is not a problem at all. Come to lean into the opposite side. As you send this foot down into the floor, start to allow the toes of the opposite leg to lift off the floor. If that's feeling achievable, take that leg out to the side, go for a little lift and a little lower. As you lift and lower, how is this side of your body feeling about this? Is it able to maintain the stability of the movement? Can we avoid the spine shifting too significantly from side to side? This side is much more challenging for me, so you'll be happy to know that it's nowhere near as easy as it was on the other side. I'm going to go for another 3 and 2 and 1. Good, land that foot down. Turn to one side. Feet are going to be about hip distance away from each other. And we're just going to see if we can create a little bit of space in the back of your leg. So you're going to bring your hands onto your hip bones. Spine is going to stay nice and tall. Back heel reaching down. Front leg nice and straight. And we're going to fold at the hip. And imagine just starting to lean over the leg that's in front of you. The kneecap doesn't have to be fully straight if you feel that you need to have that leg a little bent to make it comfortable for your body. But the key thing is that the spine be straight. So we're not curling into the back. We're keeping a nice long line. I'm keeping my hips both facing forward. So there's a sense of drawing the front leg, so for me that's my left leg, into my body to try and connect the leg bone and the hip as deeply as I can. Then we're going to stand into those feet, come all the way back up. We're just going to take that one more time. So hips at a level, folding over the legs with the pelvis, lengthening through the crown of the head, breathing in nice and deeply here, stretching into the muscles of the hamstring, giving yourself some space and slowly coming back up, swiveling over to the other side, taking it that side now. So hips face forwards, spine stays tall, body hinges. Big, deep breath in here. Exhale, we slowly bring the spine all the way back up. Making sure that we've chosen just the right angle. Feel free to adjust the positioning of your feet if you want to take something slightly different. And slowly over we come. Once you're in the pose, see if you can reach the back heel down and back. Plug the front leg in and up to give yourself the maximum sense of release that you can. And slowly make your way up again. Turn to face me, just bring your feet directly underneath your hips. Having moved away from the wall, we're going to give it a go to do a roll down in standing without the aid of the wall behind you. So if I turn to the side, you guys will see what we're aiming to do is find that same articulation of each vertebra of your spine, one after the other. We're going to start with the head, so the chin is going to roll towards the chest.
The shoulders are going to just feel loose and comfortable hanging away from the neck. Slowly we start to take the body down. And the aim is for the hips not to have to move back too significantly. So roughly keeping the pelvis on top of the feet is the idea. Let gravity do it for you rather than imagining anything has to work too hard to take you into your roll down. Once you get to the bottom, breathe in, feeling the lungs expand, feeling the head gorgeously heavy. As you exhale, slowly press the floor away. And as you begin to send it away, the spine is slowly going to rebuild from the base of your tailbone all the way up to the top of the head. Inhaling when you get there. Exhaling, rolling down and through. Anyone that knows, for whatever reason, that they're not meant to bend into their spine too much, if you're dealing with anything like osteoporosis, then instead of rounding your spine, just fold over your hips, so keep a nice flat back. It's going to be the most beneficial for you, with a little softness in your kneecaps. And exhale, come back up. We're going to all do one more together, whether it's a roll or whether it's a flat back, just to really find a bit more space in the body. Inhaling at the bottom, exhaling slowly coming up. I'm going to get you to make your way down to the mat, however you get there. And I want you to come into a seated position with your feet in front of you and hands behind the backs of your legs. So, take a good hold, and exactly like we were doing when we were in standing, start by just allowing your pelvis to move, so the very base of your spine. If you push down and forwards with your feet, you'll feel that you just gently roll off the back of your sitting bones. The hands are holding the backs of the thighs to make this really comfortable, trying to avoid rounding too much and hunching too much into the shoulders, so keep them falling away from your earlobes. And then pull the heels in towards the body. Use your hands to bring you back up to a nice tall seated position. Let's try that again. So pressing down with the feet, rolling off your tailbone, feeling the softening down of the belly and this soft curve at the back of your shoulders. And then bring yourself all the way back up again. Inhaling nice and tall. Exhaling, coming down and back. You'll notice that your eye gaze changes according to the position that your spine has adopted. So that as we come back, maybe the eye gaze drops down towards the pubic bone. And as we come back up, maybe there's a feeling of tallness as you look towards the horizon. And this is really aimed at beginning to, again, mobilize this lowest portion of your body. This next time, we're going to come all the way back down to lie on your back. So you can use your hands to just gently walk back down the backs of the legs to bring your body onto the mat. And once you get there, I'm just going to make sure that I've got lots of space. Make sure that you bring your feet directly underneath your knees or a little bit in front. Allow the weight of your hips to descend on the floor. Let the shoulders become nice and comfortable. And having moved quite a lot today already, just allow some weight to come into the back of your body. Start to take your inhale and your exhale. And as before, that's going to begin to move the pubic bone forwards and backwards to create some opening. See what it's like to do this here, lying on the floor, noticing what happens within the relationship of legs to hips, what happens in the back of your ribs. Seeing if you can use every breath in and every breath out to drop a little deeper into the floor. And trying to stay relaxed in the head and in the neck. It can be so easy when you're doing all of these exercises, most of which might be new, to pick up tension there. So just remember that we're in the relaxation phase of the class. So this is allowed to feel comfortable. And if it's taking you a bit of time to drop, then give yourself that time. We're going to slowly move that into your circles, just like we did when we were in standing. So you're moving that imaginary marble from the belly button all the way around the left, down towards the tailbone, over to the right. And trying to find a sense of ease and comfort as you do it. And then take another circle in the opposite direction. Letting the weight of the leg bones drop into the back of the hips. Trying to keep your lovely ribs relatively close to the floor. Staying soft at the front of your chest. All right, guys, come into the middle. Just like in class 1, we're going to practice your bridging. So we're going to send the soles of your feet down into the floor. Start to pick up the base of your spine, floating it up into the beginnings of your bridge. And if you haven't got all this way at the first one, work your way up. It's totally fine. Slowly bring yourself back down one segment at a time. It's really as if you want to very delicately pick yourself up, like your spine was made of some beautiful silk fabric, and you were trying to just avoid it getting too mucky on the floor. You're moving very delicately, using this press down in the soles of your feet to pick up your pelvis. And this natural sense of weight in the head and the neck and the shoulders to take you back down again. As you move, start to notice whether you feel that you've taken your feet in a position that's useful. And if you want to bring them closer in towards you, for example, or closer in towards each other, or further away from each other, have a play with what really works for your body. You're wanting to feel a little bit as you bridge that the kneecaps are reaching in front of the ankles. And that it really is still the feet that are supporting this lift as opposed to anything going on in the head, neck and chest. So just focus on those things as you move. We're going to take one more. We're going to see if we can hold it in bridge just to bring a little final bit of work into the backs of the legs. So make sure you're pressing down evenly through the mount of your big toe and the outside edge of your foot. So we're not all on the outside edges or all on the heels. Stay for one more breath and then slowly, guys, bring your body all the way down. Once it's there, stay there. Keep your right leg exactly where it is, the two hips facing up to the ceiling. And just let your left knee move out to the side, only to the degree that that right hip can stay still. So if you move this leg to the outside and you feel immediately that this hip is lifting up, try to resist that. Just only go to that smaller range. Once you're there, have a look at your stable leg and make sure that that knee hasn't moved out to the side, almost to counteract your movement. As you exhale, drop heavy into the back of your hips. Really blow the air out to begin to feel the pelvic floor and the inner thigh turning on to bring your leg back into the center. We'll take that over to the other side. So we allow that right leg bone to move out to the side, inhaling. As you exhale, see if you can just use the inner thigh to bring that leg back in rather than the temptation, which is to use the outside edge of your leg to move that thigh in and out. We're just going to keep on alternating sides, moving from the left to the right, tuning into whether this is easier on one side than the other, especially if you have anything going on like hip issues, hip replacements, all of those kinds of things. This is going to be different from side to side. You're just going to work within the range that your body is indicating is right for you. I want us to take another 2. And 1. And then this time we're going to take both legs out to the side. So before you go anywhere, make sure the head, the neck, the chest, everything is feeling really comfortable. And then let both of those legs just slowly fold out to the side. And you want to really let the weight go there. So these legs are as floppy as they can be. And then it's the exhale that's going to bring you back. So breathe in. As you exhale, draw the belly muscles up and in and let that begin to return those legs into the center of your body. I'm going to go again. So we're going to inhale wide. Exhale, narrow. Inhale. Exhale. I'm going to go for another 3. Out. And slowly in with nothing changing in the ribs or the back of the hips. Can you keep dropping the leg bones into the back of your body to really feel like what we're doing here is moving bone on bone in a really good way, a way that creates space and lubrication and all of those juicy things that help us to move about our day with greater ease. In we come. This last one is your last one, and we're going to stay. Lift your head and just lay it back down again on your shoulders in case they've arched backwards or moved into any position that's not entirely comfortable. Keep dropping the weight down into your left leg, and this time we're going to see if you can float your right leg upwards just to hover in front of the line of your hip. Now, this knee wants to be close enough in that the leg bone has an opportunity to sink back into the back of your body. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to take that toe on a little journey down towards the floor. Nothing changing in the evenness of your hips. As you exhale, slowly fold that leg back into its tabletop and then tap it back down. Using the exhale as the leg comes in is maybe going to help you to feel that you've got the opportunity to lift it more easily. But the key here really is the side that you're not moving. So the heavier this left hip and left foot are, the easier it's going to be to feel like you can float this leg in towards you without the ribs having to lift or the low back arching. So see if you can really drop so heavy into this left-hand side that there's some freedom in your right leg. Let's try that on the other side. So right foot connects down into the floor, right hip is anchored, left leg begins to stroll upwards into your tabletop and back down towards the floor. We're going to go for about 5 on this side, just moving nice and gently, imagining that the bulb of your leg bone is just kind of sliding backwards and upwards in the hip socket. Foot is landing exactly where it was when the foot was on the floor. So nothing is changing in the angle of the leg. And again, just being very curious about what you're finding on this side. If you're very keen, what you can do is bring one leg into a tabletop, drop really heavy now through the back of both hips, and then bring the other leg up to join it. And if that's feeling like a really good option for your body, you can then explore a little tap of one toe down, bring that leg back up, and a little tap of the other foot down. The key clue is if the belly has to push up to the ceiling to allow you to take this double tabletop position, then maybe start your work with one foot down. Start to strengthen into the belly muscles, and it will then be easier to do this exercise with both legs floating. Take one more of whichever variation you're doing on each side of your limbs, and then slowly lower those feet all the way back down. Roll onto your side. Press yourself into a seated position. We're going to come all the way back up to stand and take that last little roll down again to see how it's feeling. So, you're going to bring yourself up into standing, somewhere in the center of your mat, feet directly underneath your hips. Close down the eyes again, just to become comfortable with the position of your body over your feet. Take a big breath in. And as you exhale, begin to roll through the back of the skull, sliding down the front of your body. Just allowing yourself to move in a way that feels gentle and really respectful. Inhale here, everything releasing, descending. Exhale, press down into the floor, slowly rebuild. And come all the way back up. When you're there, consider keeping the eyes closed for a moment and just tuning into how your body feels. Head and neck, shoulders, ribs over pelvis, pelvis over legs. Can you feel where the weight has gone into in the soles of your feet? Does it feel different to stand here than it did at the beginning? As and when you're ready, guys, gently open your eyes. Take a breath in and say thank you to yourself for the work that you've done. You are done.